Many years ago, in a peaceful close called Kingsley Close, lived a man named Frank. Frank had big dreams, very big ones, so the type of dreams that could fill a stadium, but unfortunately, his energy level could barely power a rechargeable torchlight. He was 34 years old, married to a gentle woman named Linda, and blessed with one stubborn 6-year-old son called Junior. But the truth was simple. Frank hated anything called work with passion. See, he wasn't allergic to jobs, though. No, he was just allergic to efforts. Anything that involved waking up early, sweating, carrying files, or reporting to a boss was against his destiny. At least, that was what he always told anyone who questioned his lifestyle. Frank had lost 3 jobs in 1 year, but if you asked him, he would swear that witches and village people were responsible for his bad luck. First, it was the security company job. He lasted exactly 6 weeks there because they wanted him to resume at 6:30 a.m. daily and stand at the gate like a soldier. Frank said it was modern slavery. Then came the supermarket job, where he was fired for falling asleep inside the storeroom while customers were shouting at the cashier outside. Finally, there was a brief attempt at being a POS operator for a friend, but after misplacing 15,000 naira on his very first day, the friend collected the machine back and stopped taking his calls. Now, Frank spent most of his days in the compound, sitting shirtless on a white plastic chair in front of his 1-bedroom apartment, with his legs stretched lazily, one hand scratching his belly and the other scrolling endlessly through TikTok motivational videos. If you passed by him, you would definitely hear things like 5 side hustles that will make you a millionaire in 6 months, or how I turned 50,000 naira into 5 million naira using one simple trick. Frank loved those videos. In fact, he believed so much in smart work that he convinced himself that hard work was only for ordinary people without vision. Linda, his wife, had given up arguing with him about finding a stable job. She was already juggling her small, ready-to-wear fashion business, taking care of Junior, and managing all the house bills. Whenever she begged him to try something steady, Frank would wave his hand dismissively and say, "Don't worry, baby. My breakthrough is close. God is about to disgrace my enemies." And then, one sunny Thursday afternoon, Frank was sitting outside as usual when he heard 2 neighbors, Mama Jacob and Mrs. Okoro, discussing their office contribution money. "Ah, Mama Jacob, I just collected my 120,000 naira from our job last week. I have already bought a deep freezer. My cold pure water business will start next Monday." Frank's ears perked up immediately. He adjusted his chair slightly so he could hear better without making it obvious. "Eh?" Mama Jacob exclaimed. "Me sef go collect my own next month, so that one is straight capital for my new provision shop. Bank no go stress us again." Frank's eyes widened slowly and his mind started running faster than a man whose wife was in labor. He thought to himself, "Wait, oh, so people are just gathering small money and cashing out big like this? This is the sign I have been waiting for." For the first time in months, Frank sat up straight and his brain, which usually worked on slow mode, suddenly shifted to turbo mode. He imagined himself holding large bundles of cash, giving motivational speeches, and buying Linda a brand new sewing machine just to prove he wasn't useless. But most importantly, he imagined himself as the boss, collecting everyone's money while lounging like a king. That evening, Frank called Linda into their small room. He was sitting on the bed looking unusually serious, as if he had just been appointed the Minister of Finance. He lowered his voice like a man about to reveal a deep secret. "Linda, our days of suffering are over." Linda, who was busy threading her needle, frowned suspiciously. "Frank, what have you done again? I hope you didn't borrow money from those loan apps." Frank placed his right hand dramatically on his chest. "God forbid. No more borrowing. I have discovered something better. We are starting a contribution business right here in this compound." Linda blinked. Contribution business? You mean ajo? Exactly, Frank said. He stood up and began walking around like a motivational speaker. But this one is not just ordinary ajo, baby. This one is Frank Savings and Multipurpose Thrift Empire. Doesn't that name sound big enough? Linda stared at him speechless. She wanted to laugh, but she was too tired. Frank, do you even have savings? Do you even know how to keep accounts? You don't even have a proper notebook. Frank waved his hand confidently. Leave all that accounting talk for small thinkers. All I need is trust and branding. Look at me now. People already like me in this compound. If I create a small handwritten poster, put double your returns within 6 months and smile very well, everybody will rush to join for a little registration fee. Linda shook her head slowly. Frank, please, don't start what you cannot finish. But Frank had already entered full campaign mode. By the next morning, he wore his cleanest polo, borrowed Junior's color pencils, and designed a crooked handwritten poster. Frank Savings and Multipurpose Thrift Empire. Secure your future today. No bank wahala, no stress. Guaranteed double returns in 6 months. He used masking tape to stick it on the compound notice board beside the landlord's warning about unpaid rent. Then he began moving from door to door, knocking and introducing himself like a politician seeking votes. Good afternoon, my people. I bring financial freedom to your doorstep. No hidden charges, no delay. Join my savings empire today and watch your destiny change just for a small registration fee. To Mama Jacob, he said, Auntie, just bring 5,000 naira every week before December. You will open a big shop. To Uncle Bada, the Okada rider, he said, Oga, don't you want to upgrade to a new bike? This is your chance, so. Even Mrs. Okoro, the loud-mouthed trader, got a special pitch. Auntie, your big customer base needs capital. Let's make it happen. By the end of the week, Frank had convinced 8 compound members and 3 outsiders to join. He collected 80,000 naira from them and stuffed the money into a small brown envelope he hid under his pillow. That night, Linda sat beside him, watching him grin like a lottery winner as he counted the cash. Frank, you're supposed to keep all this money safe for the contributors. Please, don't spend it. Frank patted her shoulder confidently. Relax, my queen. This is the beginning of our empire. Trust me, I know what I am doing. But as he lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan, a tiny thought crept into his mind. I have 80,000 naira just sitting there. Shouldn't I test small enjoyment first? After all, I deserve it. And so, Frank woke up the next morning, feeling like a brand new man. He wasn't the same Frank who used to lie shirtless on the plastic chair, scratching his belly and arguing with Junior over the last piece of fried plantain. No, this was CEO Frank, the proud founder of Frank Savings and Multipurpose Thrift Empire. Even the compound breeze felt different. It was as though God himself had finally recognized his hustle. He ironed his only Sunday polo, wore matching jeans, sprayed an extra dose of his local imitation perfume, and walked around the compound with his chest out, greeting tenants with new confidence. Good morning, investors, he shouted at Mama Jacob, who was hanging clothes. Good morning, CEO, she replied, giggling proudly. Frank was pleased. He loved the sound of CEO and the way it rolled off people's tongues like music. Within 2 weeks, Frank's contribution business started growing faster than termites inside wet wood. Every Sunday evening, contributors lined up outside his door with their weekly payments, and he would sit majestically at a small wooden table borrowed from the landlord, wearing a serious face like a bank manager. Thank you for trusting Frank Savings, he would say, stamping typing fake receipts with a pen. Your future is secured. He loved collecting money so much that he started practicing his CEO signature on empty paper, convinced that one day Forbes magazine would feature him on their cover with the headline, "From Plastic Chair to Empire Builder." And the more money came in, the more Frank's confidence grew. But unfortunately, so did his taste for enjoyment. One sunny Wednesday afternoon, Frank counted the week's collections and it amounted to 140,000 naira in total. His eyes began to shine like solar panels at noon. Linda, his wife, stood by the door watching him with her arms folded. "Frank," she said slowly, "remember this money is not yours, so it belongs to the contributors. Keep it safe." Frank waved his hand casually. "Relax, my queen. Who do you think you married? A professional. I am definitely keeping it safe until payout day." But later that evening, Frank passed by Mama Bisi's grill stand outside the close and the rich aroma of roasted meat slapped him across the face. He stood there inhaling deeply, pretending to check his phone until Mama Bisi called out, "Oga CEO, since you blow, you know they greet person again, oh." Frank smiled sheepishly. "No vex, Mama Bisi. In fact, give me 2,500 naira suya, mixed gizzard join." Now, that was the beginning of the problem. From suya, he graduated to Nkwobi nights, and from there, he discovered a small lounge down the road where the DJ always screamed, "CEO Frank, don't enter," the moment he arrived. Within a month, Frank had bought new sneakers, a shiny watch that sticks too loud, and pre-branded polo shirts with FSTE CEO boldly printed across the chest. However, Linda was not impressed. Nah. She sat on their bed one night staring at Frank, who was busy scrolling TikTok for millionaire mindset videos. "Frank, you started dipping into the contributors' money, haven't you?" Frank froze briefly, then he laughed nervously. "Linda, you don't trust me. I am only borrowing it small. Don't worry, I will replace it next week." "Frank, listen to me," Linda warned, lowering her voice so that Junior wouldn't hear. "This is not your money. If anything goes wrong, these people will come for your neck, oh." But Frank wasn't listening. He was too busy imagining his empire growing. One Friday afternoon, Uncle Bada, one of the biggest contributors and the compound's Okada rider, came to Frank's door looking worried. "Oga Frank, I beg, I need my 50,000 naira early. School no gree register my daughter without payment." Frank froze and forced a smile as his mind did mental calculations. He had spent half the money on suya, sneakers and branded polos. The remaining cash wasn't enough to cover Bada's full request. "Uncle Bada," he said, scratching his head, "don't worry, your money is safe, but right now the central banking system is balancing the accounts. By Tuesday, I will give you everything." Uncle Bala frowned but nodded slowly. "Okay, Tuesday no far." Unfortunately, Frank had no plan for Tuesday. By Saturday morning, Mrs. Okoro, the compound's chief broadcaster and chairlady of gossip, had started whispering things to other tenants. She cornered Mama Jacob at the clothesline. "Mama Jacob, I no like the way Frank dey chop suya every night, oh. Me, I dey watch am. That man go swallow our contribution money like groundnut, oh." By evening, 3 tenants had already heard the gist and they were watching Frank like CCTV cameras. But instead of slowing down, Frank upgraded his spending habits. He started paying keke riders extra 500 naira just to look like a big man. He bought Linda a small handbag to keep her quiet, and he even sent Junior to school with lunch money bigger than usual. But just when he thought everything was under control, a stranger came into the picture and changed everything. One night, Frank was scrolling Facebook when he stumbled upon a video titled "Turn 100,000 naira into 1.2 million naira in 2 weeks, guaranteed." The man in the video wore a flashy suit, stood in front of a Lamborghini, and spoke with the confidence of someone who could convince a lion to become vegetarian. Frank's heart began to dance. This is it. This is how I will double the contributors' money and become richer than Dangote. Without telling Linda, he transferred 100,000 naira from the savings to the crypto experts that night, convinced that by the end of the month, everyone would hail him as a financial genius. He slept smiling, dreaming of yacht, champagne and CNN interviews. But what Frank didn't know was that the so-called experts had already blocked him and many others, and also disappeared with their money. Frank's downfall came quietly, step by step, like a rat eating groundnuts in the dark. For weeks, he had been living like a king, flexing as CEO of Frank Savings and Multipurpose Thrift Empire, believing his crypto investment was the golden ticket to wealth. He was even already planning how to shock the compound with his new status. Maybe he would buy a second-hand Toyota Corolla, or better still, organize a small Thanksgiving to celebrate his financial breakthrough. But by the second week, reality struck harder than lightning and thunder. The so-called crypto experts who promised him 1.2 million naira guaranteed vanished into thin air. Frank tried calling, but the man's phone was switched off. He sent WhatsApp messages only to see one great tick that refused to turn blue. Panic crawled up his throat, but he told himself, no problem, I will manage somehow. Nobody will know. Unfortunately, they will always know. Trouble started on Monday morning when Mama Jacob, one of his earliest contributors, knocks on his door with urgency. Oga Frank, please, I need my 80,000 naira today. Jacob's school is doing exam registration, and they said no payment, no exam. Frank froze. He forced a smile and rubbed his forehead. Aha, Mama Jacob, no problem now. Your money dey. But with a balance small account, by Friday latest, you collect your money. She frowned. But Oga Frank, you know say my turn reached since last week, oh. I know now, I know, Frank said and waved his hand like a politician. Don't worry, I got you. Trust your CEO. Mama Jacob reluctantly left, but her voice carried frustration loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Hey, this your CEO better not try me, oh. Inside the room, Linda stared at Frank. Where do you want to get 80,000 naira by Friday? Frank, how much is even left from the contributions? Frank avoided her gaze. Don't stress yourself, Linda. I have a plan. But Linda wasn't convinced. She sat on the bed with her arms folded, shaking her head at him. Frank, I warned you about this contribution rubbish. If this thing explodes, they will eat you alive in this compound. Unfortunately, by Wednesday, Mrs. Okoro, the self-appointed Minister of Information for Kingsley Close, spotted Frank dressed to kill, sneaking out of the compound early in the morning with a crested boutique bag. She narrowed her eyes and said to herself, so, this man still dey chop enjoyment when people never collect their money? Okay now, by afternoon, she made sure the entire compound had the updates. Tenants began asking worriedly, have you collected your contribution? Not yet, oh. Me sef, oh, I hope we no go hear story. Well, Frank didn't even help matters. Instead of calming down, he doubled down on his big man image, buying more suya and showing up with fresh sneakers. To the tenants, it looked like he was chopping their money, and their suspicion grew like yeast in dough. By Thursday evening, things got worse. Uncle Bada, the Okada rider, who had invested 50,000 naira, stormed Frank's apartment like a police officer on assignment. Frank, where is my money? He backed in the doorway. Frank laughed awkwardly, trying to sound confident. Uncle Bada, abeg, calm down. Your money dey. You go collect everything on Monday. Monday ke? Bada shouted. Na so you tell me last week, oh. This week na Monday. Next week go be Tuesday. Today na today. Give me my money. By this time, 3 tenants had gathered in the corridor pretending to wash clothes, but they were watching closely, and of course, Mrs. Okoro appeared from nowhere, holding her broom dramatically like a microphone. Ah, "Uncle Bada, what is happening now?" she asked sweetly, pretending not to know. Uncle Bada pointed at Frank, breathing heavily. "This man, they play with our money, oh. If he no give me my 50,000 naira this night, I go scatter everywhere." Frank raised his hands, trying to explain, but his voice was shaky. "Uncle Bada, abeg, calm down now. I will sort you out, I swear on my late father's grave." That night, the commotion got out of hand that Mr. Johnson, the landlord, called for an emergency compound meeting. By 8 p.m., all tenants gathered in the corridor, sitting on wooden stools and plastic chairs, doing choo-choo-choo like angry bees. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat. "Frank, people are saying you are delaying contribution payments. Is it true?" Frank adjusted his polo and smiled. "Landlord, there is no problem at all. Just small logistic issues. Their money they complete." But before he could finish, Mama Jacob cut in sharply. "Landlord, my son's school will send him home tomorrow because of unpaid fees. I know they play, oh." "Me self," Uncle Bada shouted. "Frank, you must refund me today." Then Mrs. Okoro raised her voice dramatically. "Landlord, let us talk the truth, oh. This man don't chop our money finish. Look at his new sneakers now. See suya every night. See t-shirts where he prints for himself. CEO indeed. Abeg, no be today. We dey collect our money back." The compound erupted in chaos as neighbors shouted on top of each other. Frank tried to defend himself, but nobody was listening. Finally, Mr. Johnson raised his hand for silence and said, "Frank, you have 48 hours to pay everyone back or I will involve the police. No excuses, no story." Frank swallowed hard. 48 hours? "Yes," Mr. Johnson said coldly. 48 hours. After that, you are on your own. That night, Frank sat on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above him. The room felt hot and small, even though the window was open. Linda sat beside him, looking at him pitifully. "Frank, how much do you owe them now?" Frank rubbed his forehead and sighed. 300,000. Linda's mouth fell open. 300,000 naira? From where do you want to find it? Frank leaned back on the bed and covered his face with both hands. "Linda, relax. God will provide. Something must happen." Frank barely slept that night. He lay flat on his back, staring at the ceiling fan as if it was about to drop his destiny. His CEO confidence had evaporated completely. His branded FSTE CEO polo shirts now mocked him from the corner of the room. His sneakers looked too bright for his new shame, and even Junior's loud breathing in the corner felt like mockery. 48 hours. That was all the time he had to refund nearly 300,000 naira to angry contributors, or else the landlord would involve the police. Well, the problem was simple and bitter. Frank didn't have 30,000 naira, let alone 300,000 naira. By Saturday morning, the entire Kingsley Close compound was on high alert. People were hanging around the corridor, talking loudly, pressing their ears to doors and pretending to sweep the floor just to monitor Frank's movements. By 9 a.m., Mama Jacob knocked first. Without greeting or smiling, she just went straight to business. "Frank, it is time. Where is my money?" Frank cleared his throat, forced a smile and said, "Mama Junior, abeg, just give me till evening." Before he could finish, Uncle Bada appeared, followed by Mrs. Okoro, who of course came holding her broom like a microphone again. "Evening care," Uncle Bada barked. "Frank, na today oh, if you no bring my 50,000 naira, I swear you go sleep inside cell tonight." Frank started sweating instantly. He opened his mouth to explain, but Mrs. Okoro interrupted him loudly, making sure her voice reached everyone in the compound. "I talk am since now. This man don't chop our money. See his face, see his belly, see his new sneakers. Na contribution money he used buy am." "God forbid," Frank shouted defensively, raising his hands like a pastor closing prayer. "I never chop anybody money. I just have small financial delay. By God's grace, everything go balance today." By now, the noise had attracted everyone in the compound. Even the landlord, Mr. Johnson, stepped out, holding his phone and wearing a frown that could turn beans to powder. Frank, it's been 48 hours. Where is the money? Frank swallowed hard and scratched his head like someone searching for lost wisdom. Landlord, abeg, you fit give me like 2 more days? That was the moment the compound exploded, and while the shouting was still going on, a black police van suddenly pulled up in front of the compound. 2 officers jumped down, followed by Chido, one of Frank's external contributors from outside the compound. Chido looked angry enough to fight a bull. "Na him be that!" He pointed at Frank immediately. "Oga, arrest him. The thief don't chop my 70,000 naira contribution." A loud came from the crowd. Linda froze and Junior started crying in the corner. The police officer, a tall, muscular man with a permanent frown, walked straight up to Frank. "Are you Mr. Frank, CEO of One Frank Savings and Multipurpose Thrift Empire?" Frank's lips trembled. "Yes, sir, but CEO no be thief now." The officer ignored his protest and announced flatly, "Oga, you are under arrest for fraudulent mismanagement of funds. If you no wan follow us gently, we'll go help you follow." "Fraud?" Frank screamed and held his chest dramatically. "Officer, I swear on my father's grave, I not thief anybody money." "Then explain this," Chido shouted, pulling out printed screenshots of Frank's fake contribution ledger. The papers showed that Frank had inflated numbers and created ghost contributors, which showed he collected 250,000 naira from people who didn't even exist. The crowd were shocked. Mama Jacob nearly dropped her wrapper. Even the landlord's mouth fell open. Linda stepped forward crying. "Frank, is this true?" Frank tried to hold her hand. "Linda, calm down. Let me explain." "Explain what?" She snapped and pulled away from him. "I told you from the start not to play with these people's money, but you refused to listen. You wanted to wear polo, eat suya and pose as CEO while using other people's sweat. Now see where you've dragged us." Frank lowered his head. "Linda, I just wanted us to blow. I thought if I invested that money in crypto, I could pay everyone double and people would respect me. I didn't mean for things to turn out like this." Linda shook her head slowly. "Respect? Frank, respect comes from hard work, not shortcuts." The police officer tapped his baton against his palm impatiently. "Oga, last warning. Are you refunding these people now or we are leaving with you?" Frank panicked and fell to his knees. "Abeg, give me 1 week. I will refund everyone. I promise. I will sell my phone, my TV, even Junior's bicycle." But Chido wasn't having it. "Officer, carry him. We no go hear story again." Just as the officers were about to grab him, Linda made a desperate call to her elder brother, Mr. Samuel, who was a serious no-nonsense man living in Surulere. After 45 minutes, Mr. Samuel arrived, paid off 150,000 naira on Frank's behalf, and signed an agreement for Frank to repay the rest within 3 months or face legal action. The police released Frank reluctantly, but unfortunately, his dignity was dead and buried. From that day, whenever Frank walked through the compound, children would call him CEO Chop and Clean Mouth behind his back, and adults would laugh, shaking their heads. Even worse, Frank was banned from handling anything called money ever again. If he so much as mentioned NEPA or water bill, people would hiss and walk away. Months later, Frank was spotted at Mama Bisi's stand, not as a customer this time, but as her new cashier, wearing a faded apron and counting change for customers. The same man who once promised financial freedom now spent his days giving change for 100 naira more. When Mrs. Okoro saw him, she shook her head and told Mama Jacob, "When laziness marries greed, their firstborn child is shame." And from that day on, Kingsley Close finally rested in peace, at least until the next drama. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. Give the story a thumbs up and share the story out with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!